From Michigan, Ms. Tlaib is now recognized for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you so much for everyone that have been coming forward in regards to this important issue. Cryptocurrency like Bitcoin currently consumes enough energy to power a small nation, and that's something that continues to be missed in this debate around this issue. And the University of Cambridge analysis estimated that Bitcoin mining consumes 121 terawatts hours a year. To put that in perspective for everyone, that's more electricity than the entire country Argentina consumes. That's more than the consumption of Google, Apple, Facebook, and Microsoft combined. One Bitcoin transaction, a single purchase, sale, or transfer uses the same amount of electricity as the typical US household uses in more than a month. And so this is really outstanding to me, and many folks do not know this, many Americans and folks that are talking about this issue. And so, Ms. Dixon, can you explain why for cryptocurrency like Bitcoin that rely on proof of work model mining is such an energy intensive process?
Thank you for the question. This is a really important area, obviously, in terms of sustainability and the focus on what we do in this space. We should always be trying to do it better and much more efficiently. In Bitcoin is the proof of the way that Bitcoin consensus is achieved is through really complicated math equations. And so there's a lot of energy that's needed to be used to be able to make that happen. I know best about the consensus mechanism on Stellar, which is the Stellar Consensus Protocol, which can be done on a very small computer, any of the ones that you have in front of you. And we had a University of London did a study on the Stellar network itself, and the network is low in terms of energy consumption. It's around 0.00022 kilowatts per hour for each transaction. That's less than a transaction for Visa. So that's a really important comparison for us all to think about. So not every consensus mechanism is proof of work or proof of stake. Again, there are many, many different ones out there, and depending on the mechanism, it depends on the energy consumption. But it's definitely important for us to be able to try to do this better, more efficiently, and to consider the sustainability concerns around it.
No, I'm so glad you talked about a model that potentially, to shrink cryptocurrency's enormous carbon footprint. I'm particularly alarmed that previously, idled, shut down coal plants like the one operated by Greenidge Generation in Seneca Falls, New York, are now being brought back online to aid in cryptocurrency mining. And I don't know if the chairwoman knows this, but like in Montana, a coal-fired generating station is now providing 100% of its energy to Marathon Digital Holdings for Bitcoin mining under the power purchase agreement. Prior to the crackdown in China, it was estimated that nearly 2/3 of all Bitcoin mining took place in China, included in regions with very heavy power generation, such as Mongolia and other areas. But Ms. Dixon, should the world's central banks and governments be taking a more active role in monitoring and regulating cryptocurrency in order to bring energy consumption and carbon emissions in line with our own targets here in our country at the Paris Agreement? What would that look like?
I think it's really important for us as an industry to really focus on this issue, even without regulation. I think it's something that you need to always balance the value of what you receive in terms of the harm that's actually created to the environment. So we constantly have to be doing that kind of analysis. I think that we all need to focus on minimizing the energy consumption as much as possible, and then think about how we can work with governments to be able to consider the best way to achieve that kind of the carbon neutral status that I think a lot of folks want us to get to. So I encourage constant discussion. I encourage us to be innovative. This is one of the wonderful things about blockchain and just innovation generally. You look and you use technology to help to solve problems just like this.
Yeah, and the proof of work model fundamentally is incompatible with the environmental neutral future. And so, what tools, you're saying we got to move in this direction, Ms. Dixon. What tools can policymakers like ourselves look at to incentivize, to move us towards away from that model? How can policymakers accelerate that transition away from carbon intensive mining? We know our planet is burning. The climate crisis is here. And I just want to get the cryptocurrency community to become part of the solution and not make this crisis even worse. So can you talk about things that you would suggest for us to be working on in regards to this issue?
I think it's really important. We've actually engaged a third party to be able to look at the additional energy consumption, not just for what as I mentioned, the University of London did with respect to the work that they did, but I do think it's important to be able, and we're engaging a third party to look at all of the different transactions and how the network actually can even be better and better with this with respect to Stellar. I think that same kind of work can be done with all of the different types of consensus mechanisms out there. So I think research and more focus on what we can do to achieve sustainability and our sustainability goals is an important mechanism, and I think it would be really good to continue that conversation with you.
Thank you, and I yield.
Thank you very much. The gentleman from Tennessee, Mr.